Hello and welcome to the After Show Afterthoughts here with my wonderful guest. We have Dr. Zanaida Robles and we have award-winning playwright Cindy Cooper. And here I am. I'm Lynnie Godfrey. So thank you very much for tuning in. And we're going to just continue just a few more questions that I have for these two wonderful ladies. If you have not listened to the radio program, I suggest that you do, because then you'll be able to follow through as to what we're going to talk about now. Now, we talked about in the radio program the opportunity that that the COVID era gave us all to explore, because this medium that I have created here was born during COVID. So before COVID, I wasn't doing this. And you could have never told me that I would be doing this. This is not, I have done many things in show business except for being a ventriloquist and a clown. And this was not, on my list. But the explanation, and I do want to say it again, because there are some people who will see this and this will inspire them to go to the radio. The exploration that you talked about, Zanaida, about that inward seeking, if you could say that again, about that period of time, that gestation period during the pandemic period that led you to go from teaching and performing, being a soloist in an ensemble person, doing the gigs, to
Yeah.
composing, to
Yeah.
composing.
It did. Yeah. During, like many of us, I was holed up in my home, unable to do what we usually do. And my primary way of being expressive as an artist, which was through my voice, through my singing, with colleagues in choirs and in different venues all over the place. That was not a possibility during the pandemic, and so I had to turn inward, and I fell back on a form of artistic expression that I had some experience with, but hadn't really done much with, which was music composition. And I had written some music before, mostly just as exercises in artistic expression for myself, but never on a scale where I was actually producing work, with the even the hope that it would be performed, for real. I mean, I think that's the thing. What happened somehow miraculously is some along the way, at some point along the way, I became a real composer, whatever that means, and that's something that I never thought, would happen, or if it was gonna happen, I didn't know when, or I didn't expect it to happen at this point. And definitely, being, going through the pandemic definitely had an impact on the process of my development as a composer.
Well, one of the things that also I'm so impressed with is the fact that for your humility, for one. And Cindy has, and we want to say, Cindy, again, where people can hear her music. So make sure that before we end this, that is said here on the air, because that's one of the things that I'm going to try to put it in the text that will accompany this also. So I also want to make
Uh,
sure that I if I put the link, I put the right link, or I tell people to look up Melodia
right.
and do that.
But I just have a little COVID anecdote to add here, which
Mhm.
is Melodia, 20 years. They do 2 concerts a year, so 40, concerts. We never recorded them. And so COVID came along. The choir couldn't sing together. They were doing virtual concerts, and the technical issues.
Oh my
involved.
God.
Yeah.
Oh, oh.
But suddenly we realized, we had little sporadic pieces of video, and people were contacting us saying, when are you what can we listen to? So finally the board made a decision at that point, even though it's a little bit more expensive, to do a high quality professional video with every concert. And it's also coordinated with a professional recording. So it's not just a video camera, it's a professional level recording. And that's what they're doing now, is putting it together. So out of COVID, we came up with these virtual programs, and that's how people who weren't lucky enough to be at the concert can listen to it.
All
so
right,
that's my little COVID anecdote. Oh yeah, so it will be December 16th, launched December 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern. It will be a YouTube premiere. People do have to register for it in advance, and they can do that at the website, Melodia Women's Choir NYC.org, O-R-G. And so that's www.melodia Women's Choir NYC.org. And you go to the concert page, and there's a place where you can register. It's free. And we invite everybody to listen. And it's just a wonderful experience that you can have on your couch or in your backyard or wherever you have your device.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous. So the next time you come on, Zanaida, I will have an opportunity to play your music before you speak, so people will hear your music, and then we will be able to talk about the next phase that you have been working on. I find that is a very important thing. It's so very different. You talked about, I lived in Studio City, so off of Coldwater. So I know where you are teaching, and the opportunities that you have had to work in the studio situation, in working with churches, working with individuals, working with concert. Thank you very much. That is in the chat. Thank you. Doing that. Tell me, you said, well, you've gotten to a point now when you think, maybe I don't want to do this all of my life. Does it give you a sense of freedom? Or what? I don't want to lead you. I hate people who do that leading thing by giving you the answer in my question. No. What does it do for you? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's funny you mentioned Coldwater Canyon in Ventura, but that's right where I work. Like I work right there, right at that intersection.
Colfax, I was right there, Colfax, right in those.
Yeah. I think, look, session singing is really fun. Singing is really fun. Being an artist in Southern California, in the studio town, Studio City, going to the major, film studios out here, Warner Brothers and Sony Pictures and all of these different studios that are out here. I mean, it's the awe and wonder
of the LA dream. It's the LA dream.
It really is. I mean, it can be. It can be. And so I don't mind. I like being in the environment. There's something stimulating about this environment. I don't, who's to say what's going to happen in the future in terms of I want to, I mean, if we're going to dream a little bit, I'd like to still be able to, benefit from this environment and enjoy that what it has to offer, while also, expanding, my geographical landscape to some degree, maybe a little more travel. I'm becoming a little more comfortable now, just going places, different places I never would have dreamed going. I went on a trip to Costa Rica this past May to visit a friend down there, and it opened my eyes to the wonders of traveling to places, to different countries besides Europe. I've been to Europe on choir tours and stuff like that.
Yeah, but the culture is different there.
The culture is different.
Europe, when you get to Europe, and there's a similarity of culture that you can see that how much we copy from London and everything else. Every 5 years you go there, and 5 years later you see it here in New York City or in LA or something. But when you go to a place where the culture is really different from yours,
Yeah.
it does make you absorb and grow, absorb their culture, but
Hmm.
grow and aware that you're not alone in the world, that there are
Yeah.
so many different levels, you
There
know.
really are. There really are. And there are so many different points of inspiration, you know, from the food you eat to
Hmm.
the architecture, you know. I mean, that's something that I get a lot from the landscape, you know, just being in a landscape where, you know, it's tropical, and what do people who've lived in a place for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, 'cause we haven't lived the United States is only 300 years old. It's not that old, right? But
Exactly,
there are places
exactly.
in the
So
world that
yes,
are not,
yes,
there are places in the world that don't have, you know, that are not European, that have existed for centuries.
centuries.
What do those places look like? And the flavor is just distinctly different in
And
those
how
places.
do they survive?
And
How,
how do
you know,
they
what is
survive?
their day-to-day living and how is it different? Those things are
Yeah.
fascinating. You know,
There's
one of the
art in
questions that
that.
yes, one of the, one more question.
Hmm.
Um, um, the inspiration for your music, we talked really quickly earlier because I thought where you're living, did that inspire you? What, you know, you talked about your ancestors and what messages do you want to say in your music? What do you want us to hear? You know, I don't want you to describe it for people so that they're now not listening. They're thinking, do I hear what she said? Do I hear, you know? But I want to know what inspires you, and how that is included in some of the music.
I think for the choral music and
Hmm.
vocal music, you know, I mean, there are lyrics, and the music is driven primarily by the lyrics in those cases. So, you know, in a way, there is some uh benefit, and I don't know if it's a benefit, but there's an inherent, you know, subject or story or you know, kind of, you know, image that you can conjure up just based on what the text is. You know, for example, the piece I wrote for Melodia from the Stone Age, you know, it's very descriptive about the the stone and its attributes and its environment and where it came from, and the the primordial, you know, sort you know, environment, you know, where you can imagine the earth being kind of a barren or growing up, and mountains and trees, and then space and time, and it just kind of expands, right?
Yes.
So
Hmm.
but that came from the poetry, right? um when there's no when there's not really a poem that's driving that, it's a little bit different. And I'm still exploring how to do that. So I guess I'm that's why I'm very, very comfortable writing vocal music, because it's kind of built in. You know, what do I want the
Yes.
audience
It
to get
leads
from
you.
it?
It kind of leads you to where,
Yeah, it
yeah, where you're
does.
going. Hmm.
It
Hmm.
And
does.
it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and in this case, the poem, Zanaida picked it. I don't know how you found it, but it's also by a woman poet, Alice Corbin Henderson,
Hmm.
who was early 20th century, I think.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how you found the poem.
Um. So Alice Corbin Henderson, I found this poem because I subscribe to poemaday.org.
Yes, yes, so do I. Yes, yes, go
That
ahead. Yes,
is
yes.
such an amazing
Isn't
resource.
it? Yes,
It
it is.
really is. And I have learned, I read a poem every
Every
day,
day.
every day. And I've learned so much about poetry and poets. And so I found this poem, it popped up on Poem a Day. I read the poem and I said, this sounds like music. This sounds like a piece. And I was waiting for the opportunity to set it, and Melodia presented me with the perfect opportunity. Henderson actually she was known for being an activist on behalf of Native American civil rights. And so there's that whole thread. You remember I was talking about the land acknowledgement and the, you know, indigenous people and, you know, all of that. Um, that's another source of inspiration. It allows me to infuse some of that kind of think that ideology about naming and paying tribute and honoring those who have been here before. And so that poem and that music, it has a lot of imagery that's related to times past and time and time and think a way of thinking about the natural world that comes from a people of great wisdom. I think that's what I hope, at least in listening to From the Stone Age, I hope that there was some of that the audience and also that the singers might have received from that the inspiration for the poem and for the music comes from this Native American, this indigenous wisdom that has existed for centuries and is revealing itself now in new art that's being created.
So I told a story. I have one more question. Told a story. Because I said that was the last one, but this one more way. Because you brought something up just then. When your music is given to the musicians, to the singers, when I call them musicians, because when people are in those kinds of things, there is an acknowledgement that most of them are musicians. And what instrument do you play?
Myself,
Yes.
I had to study piano. I studied many
I
years.
can tell by your hands, I can say
Yeah.
yes,
I play piano, but I play flute. I'm kind of an amateur percussionist. I dabble in African drums. I have a little djembe collection, but
see, my
mostly
my teacher would kill me now because my nails are like this, and no piano playing anymore. But when you give your music to these individuals, is there any discussion about what you want to achieve vocally when they are, other than, we know, having been in choruses, being in an ensemble and a soloist myself, then the importance to singers is the notes and how we get the notes and the diaphragm and the. But as an actor, which is an extension of that, it's like a monologue. It's like the text that you go for. Do you at any point in time think about discussing that with your core, with your choir, with your core people, with your soloists? Does that happen in that process?
I mean, if I have an opportunity for Melodia, if I was living in New York, I would have, broke my neck to try to get down to a rehearsal and meet you guys. In most cases, the music I'm writing is for people that don't live near me, so I'm not really able to engage. But every now and then I'm able to engage, especially during COVID times. We figured out that you can actually have a Zoom conference with the group, and I've had many institutions, especially educational institutions, want to Zoom with the composer and they want to talk so they can get some of that insight directly from the composer. That's the benefit of doing music by a living composer. They are live, like
Hello.
You can't call up
with
Bob.
playwrights.
Right, or even play right. So, but the other thing about that, in terms of giving my insight, what they want, I mean, there are two thoughts about that as a composer. One is, hopefully, I've put everything that I need to put in the score so that the musicians can derive what they need in order to give a viable performance. And I also recognize that once I put it out into the world, to some degree, it's out. It's not mine anymore. I can't really, I'm not here to micromanage and kind of control the interpretation. And that's the other thing, especially with a choral piece, where you have a conductor. That's another layer of artistic expression that, although I'm a conductor myself, I'm not involved in the conductor's part in the music making process at this point. I'm the composer, and I'm giving it to a conductor, and now the conductor gets to put their take on it, digest it, and deliver it to the singers in a way where they can express it to the audience. It's really complex and beautiful.
It's a liking to a playwright who writes a play, and then you give it to the director, and then you have to give it. You have to trust, and you have to release it, let it go. The embryonic, the umbilical cord gets a little cut off, and then it's the liking. The two of you are more alike than you think. you know,
In this
in the
case,
process. Yes.
yeah, well, that's true because in this case, I know that the choir spent a lot of time studying the text and really going into every line and every word and what was the meaning of it and people like understanding it. But also, Cynthia Powell, our conductor and artistic director, is a very interpretive conductor. And she is always looking to bring like a range of voices and colors to the music, and where it's loud, where it's soft, and where it's where the instruments take over. And like this piece starts with a flute, and so there's a lot of yeah, so I think you're right. Like it's the conductor in this case, is bringing all the voices together and bringing a vision for how it should sound.
Mhm. Well, with that, I am going to say that is my last question. I thank you for this. I'd like you to indulge me for a moment because on this, like the radio program, I just want to acknowledge the passing of a magnificent relationship that I had with the wonderful Norman Lear. And I think that he would be very, very proud of the continuity and the continuing of the arts in the conversation that we even having tonight, because he was so always open to really, really the living art, that of constantly continuing and the messages through the art, whether it's comedy, whether it's music, whether it's drama. So with that, I salute him and I salute you. Thank you so, so very much. But this has been a wonderful, wonderful journey with both of you. Really, a wonderful fine
Thank you,
artist.
Lynnie.
Thank you. And now
Thank you, Lynnie.
I'm gonna end this for a second. You stay on, and I'm just gonna say goodbye to my audience. Thank you, everyone, for attending this after show afterthoughts, and look for some of the other installments on YouTube or on Twitter. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one when we have a panel of educators. Thank you again, Lynnie Godfrey, and I will see you on the radio. Bye-bye.